Hello, my name is Paula Alcaíno, and I'm going to talk about the Great Gatsby. I'm going to talk about the plot, character, the historical context, theme, and symbolisms. First, the Fitzgerald and the historical context of the 20s. The Great Gatsby was written by Francis Scott Key Fitzgerald, who was born on September 24, 1896 in St. Paul, Minnesota. Fitzgerald was a thought and intelligent child. He did poorly in school and was sent to a New Jersey boarding school in 1911. Despite being a mediocre student there, he managed to enroll at Princeton in 1930. Academical troubles and apathy plagued him through his time at college, and he never graduated. Instance enlisted in the army in 1917 as World War One neared its end. Many of these events for Fitzgerald's early life appear in his most famous novel, The Great Gatsby, published in 1925. Like Fitzgerald, Nick Carraway is a thoughtful young man from Minnesota, educated at an evil little school, in its case Yale, who moves to New York after the war. Also, similar to Fitzgerald's Jay Gatsby, a sensitive young man who idolizes wealth and luxury, and who falls in love with a beautiful young woman while stationed at the military camp in the South. The context of the 20s is the end of the World War One. These have a feelings post World War One, the physical and spiritual euphoria and the freedom, and the financial freedom, obviously, before for the low interest, buying a credit card, the stock market growth, and relative luxury for common people. Some implication for 20s. The people had an I can do it feeling, and there was a resurgence of the American dream for immigrants. We have some a phrase that say if you put your mind to something and work hard, you can have whatever you want: money, success, fame, even if you start with nothing. That was the thing that they have in this period. We have the new role for women. The new woman demands to right to vote and to work outside the home and be like like the men. Symbolically, she cut her hair into a boyish bob and bare her pelvis in the short skirts of the fashionable 20s. We have some prohibitions, like in the United States, focus on the manufacture and sale of alcohol. Drinking itself was never illegal, and there were always exceptions for medical and religious uses, and this start a illegal sale of alcohol. There before the 20s, feels was optimism, celebration, fear, positive feeling about the potential of a new life, a new value after this horrible war. So now we have the characters and the plot. First of all, we have Nick Carraway. Nick Carraway is the novel narrator. Nick is a young man from Minnesota who, after being educated at Yale and fighting in World War One, goes to New York City to learn about the bomb business. He is honest, tolerant, and inclined to receive judgment. Nick often serves as a confidant for those with troubling secrets like the Gatsby or Tom Buchanan. So here we have Jay Gatsby. He is the title character and protagonist of the novel. Gatsby is a fabulous wealthy young man living in a Gothic mansion in West Egg. He is famous for the lavish parties he throws every Saturday night, but no one knows where he comes from, what he does, or how he made his fortune. Then we have Daisy Buchanan. Daisy Buchanan is an ex-cousin and the woman Gage's love. As a young woman in Louisville, Before the war, Daisy was courted by a number of officers, including Gatsby. She fell in love with Gatsby and promises to wait for him. However, Daisy harbors a deep need to be loved, and when wealthy, powerful young man named Tom Buchanan asks her to marry him, Daisy decides not to wait more for Gatsby after all, and thus break his heart. So, here we have Tom Buchanan. His Daisy's miserably wealthy husband was a member of Nick's social club at Yale, powerful boys and hailed for a socially soiled old family. Tom is an arrogant, hypocritical bully. His social attitudes are lust and racism and sexism, and he never ever considered trying to live up to the moral standard he demands for those around him. Then we have Jordan Baker, is Daisy's friend, a woman with whom Nick becomes some romantically involved during the course of the novel. A competitive golfer, Jordan represents one of the new women of the 20s, cynical, boyish, and self-centered. Jordan is beautiful, but also dishonest. She cheated in order to win her first golf tournament and continued to advance the truth. Then we have Myrtle Wilson. Tom is Tom Lover, whose life as husband George owns a run-down garage in the Vale of Ashes. Myrtle herself possesses a fierce vitality and desperate slog for a way to improve her situation. Unfortunately for her, she chooses Tom, who treats her as a mere object of his desires. Finally, we have George Wilson, that is Miss Dull's husband, the lifeless, exhausted owner of a run-down auto shop at the edge of the Valleys of Ashes. George loves and idolizes Myrtle and is devastated by her affair with Tom. So, we know now the characters and we know now the plot. The geography of The Great Gatsby is the Plaza Hotel, the West Eight, Its Egg, and the Valley of Ashes. Here is where the history start and have his best moment. So, the plot. The plot started like this. Nick Carraway, a young man from Minnesota, moves to New York in the summer of 1922 to learn about the bond business. He rents a house in the West Side district of Long Island. Nick's next-door neighborhood is West Egg. Is a mystery man named Jay Gatsby, who lives in a giant Gothic mansion and throws extravagant parties every Saturday night. He has a cousin, Daisy Buchanan, and her husband, Tom, is a classmate of Nick's at Yale. Daisy and Tom introduce to Nick to Jordan, a beautiful, cynical young woman with whom Nick begins a romantic relationship. Tom has a lover, Myrtle, Myrtle Wilson, who lives in the Valleys of Ashes, a great industrial dumping ground between West A and New York City. Not long after this revelation, Nick travelled to New York City with Tom and Myrtle at a vulgar Guadi party in an apartment that Tom keeps for the fair. Nick eventually garners an invitation for one of the legendary parties of Gay Gatsby. He encounters Jordan Baker at the party, and they meet Gatsby himself, a surprising young man who affects an English accent, has a remarkable smile, and calls everyone old sport. Gatsby tells Jordan that he knew Daisy in Louisville in 1917 and he is deeply in love with her. He spent many nights starting at the grey light at the end of her dark, across the bay for his mansion. Gatsby's targeted life and will party are simple an attempt to impress Daisy. Gatsby now wants Nick to arrange a reunion between himself and Daisy. Nick invites Daisy to have tea at his house without telling her that Gatsby will also be there. After an initial awkward conversation, Gatsby and Daisy reestablish their connection, they beginning an affair. After a short time, Tom grows increasingly suspicious of his wife's relationship with Gatsby. At lunch at the Buchanan house, Gatsby stared at Daisy with such undisguised passion that Tom realized Gatsby is in love with her. Though Tom is self-involved in extremely affair, he is deeply outcrawed by the thought that his wife could be unfaithful to him. He forced the group to drive into New York City, where confront Gatsby in a suite at the Plaza Hotel. Tom asserts that he and Daisy have a history that Gatsby could never understand, and he announced to his wife that Gatsby is a criminal. He further camped on bottling alcohol and other illegal activities. Daisy realized that her allegiance is to Tom, and Tom contemplates send her back to Sway and with Gatsby, attempting to prove that Gatsby cannot hurt him. When Nick, Jordan, and Tom drive through the Valley of Ashes, however, they discover that Gatsby's car has struck and killed Milton, Tom's lover. They rush back to Long Island, where Nick learns from Gatsby that Daisy was driving the car when it struck Milton, but Gatsby intends to take the blame. The next day, Tom tells Milton's husband, George, that Gatsby was the driver of the car. George, who has leaped at the conclusion that the driver of the car to kill Myrtle, who must have been her lover, finds Gatsby at the pool and his mansion and shot him dead. He then fatally shot himself. Finally, Nick staged a small funeral for Gatsby, ends his relationship with Jordan, and moved back to Miss Wade to escape the disgust he felt for the people surrounding Gatsby's life, and for the empty and moral decay of lives among the wealthy on the East Coast. So, we have here the theme of the novel. The theme is the decline of the American dream in the 20s. On the surface, The Great Gatsby is a story of the thwarted love between a man and a woman. The main theme of the novel, however, encompasses a much larger, less romantic scope, though all of its action takes place over a mere few months during the summer of the 1922, and is set in a circumscribed geographic area in the vicinity of Long Island, New York. The Great Gatsby is a highlight symbol in meditation of the 20s American as a whole, in particular the disintegration of the American dream in an area of unprecedented prosperity and material excess. The Great Gatsby, a novel of contradictions. The setting is during the time of Prohibition, yet the alcohol flows. It is quintessential American novel, yet it was written by an expatriate. He wrote it in France. The narrator claims to reserve all judgment, but he uses very judgment language. And finally, Daisy's voice is compelling, but she doesn't say anything of value. And perhaps, in beginning so contradictory it does, in fact represent America itself, both then and now. Finally, we have the symbolisms of the novel. First of all, we have the green light, situated at the end of Daisy's egg dock and barely visible for Gatsby West Egg Lawn. The green light represents Gatsby's hopes and dreams for the future with Daisy. Then we have the Valley of Ashes. The Valley of Ashes also symbolizes the plague of the poor, like George Wilson, who live among the dirty ashes and lose their vitality as a result. And finally, we have the eyes of Dr. T. G. Eichelberg. The eyes of Dr. T. G. Eichelberg are a pair of fatting, spectacular eyes painted on an old advertising billboard over the Valley of Ashes. They may represent God starting down upon and judging American society as a moral wasteland, though the novel never makes this point explicit. Instead, though the novel Fitzgerald suggests that symbols only have meaning because characters instill them with meaning. The connection between the eyes of Dr. T.G. and God exists only in George Wilson's grave-streaked mind. So that was my presentation about The Great Gatsby.